Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Dan coming to you with a, newish series. I don't think I'm going to create a new series title for this. I think it's just going to be part of the Hobby and Chill series. It's just going to be unboxing. I realize I'm very fortunate. I've got lots of miniatures to unbox. I've got some more miniatures incoming, and I thought about doing this a while ago, but every time I resolved to do it, I kind of lamented the fact that I've had, call it, more than dozens, less than hundreds of multi-part historical and fantasy miniatures over the last 20 years of my life or whatever that I did not do this for. I thought, kind of what the hell, no time like the present. Let's at least start this journey together of unboxing some of the kits that I've got coming in. I mentioned in the checkered shield painting video that I put out previously that this is a kit that I picked up when I was at a tournament down in Baltimore 2 weeks ago. And as I said, just wanted to go through it with you. I'm adding this to, as I also mentioned, Kit Bastion with some Oathmark Goblins and Orcs. So I'll bring some of those in specifically to let you guys see how they kind of scale up. So what are we looking at? So this is Wargames Atlantic Classic Fantasy Goblin Warband, as the box suggests. For those that don't know, Wargames Atlantic is a newer company. I'd say something like 3 years old, or at least that's when I started hearing about them. But they have been churning the kits out. I think they've been putting out like a kit a month for the 3 or so years that I've been following them. And yeah, all of it is to an excellent standard. And they also have a cool feature where, and I'm surprised that more multi-part plastic companies have not jumped on board with this, but Wargames Atlantic are kind of at the cutting edge of also having a digital arm, which allows them to not only create miniatures that they don't necessarily want to put a whole box out for, but also allows them to put out digital sculpts for conversion work. So maybe you want to have great weapon arms for your goblins, and you might potentially be able to find that on their digital side. So anyway, but what we're looking at here, plastic goblins, 30 of them. In terms of the box art, I think this is great, especially I really like the illustrated side. I think that harkens back to kind of the early Warhammer Fantasy boxes that I was drawn to. I'm less compelled by this piece. I know why companies do it. They want to, show off the product that's inside. However, I would prefer like the front be all illustrated, this fantasy art, and then this would go on the back. So, and they Wargames Atlantic, they have a bunch of historical ranges. This is their classic fantasy range, as the name suggests. And all the boxes are clean like this, where it's kind of a white background. The font down here and the color changes. And this actually is the 6th Wargames Atlantic kit that I've had. I've had their Conquistadors, their Aztecs, their Arab Warriors, their Dark Age Irish, and one more. Can't remember it. Should have written them down. But this is actually one of their earlier boxes. It came out, Halflings. That was the other one. I've had their Halflings. This came out around the same time as their Halflings. Again, in terms of box art, I think this is good. Nice clean design, white background. But again, photos I feel should be in the back, not in the front. I'm just nitpicking at this point, guys. But the photos too, I feel should be just the miniatures isolated, because when they're it's cool to see them, scenic shots with the background and stuff, but it's very difficult, especially with these darkly painted goblin models, to see what it is that's being depicted. So anyway, that's just some food for thought for you. I actually have another kit of Wargames Atlantic's coming in that I'll do an unboxing for. That should be arriving probably in the next week or so. It's their new Baron's War foot knights. So like 11th, 12th century foot knights, which from at least the order summary screen that I got in my email, it looks like there's still this where it's white background. They've got some illustrations over on the left, but the miniatures have been photoshopped to be just against a tan background. So it seems that they are moving in that direction. I had debated, let me just open up the box here while I'm jib-jabbing, but I had debated doing a like proper review series a la the Plastic Soldier review, which for those that know, do 1/72 scale plastic miniature reviews, and they're excellent and have a pretty, I think, well-designed rubric. I don't know, it just seemed like work, and this is more just for relaxing for me, so I thought let's keep it light, keep it at a high level. So what we're looking at here, it looks like there's 6 brews, 5 miniatures a piece, so that's your 30 miniatures. One thing of note straight away is that they don't come with bases, which is true of all of the Wargames Atlantic kits that I've got. And again, I would put that in the minor grievance category, because a lot of us are sourcing bases elsewhere anyway, be it on, you know, eBay, or if you're 3D printing, then you can just 3D print yourself. And you know, for the most part too, the green Renendra base kit that like all historical miniatures come with, a lot of us don't use that anyway. I would, again, it doesn't impact me at all because I have my own bases that I'm using. I'm not going to use the ones that come with the kit, even if they provided them. However, in terms of like objective review, I would say it's a demerit, because what that means is it forces 100% of people to source their own bases, whereas if even 20% of people would use the bases that came with it, then that would be of some value to them. I'm curious to see, again, when the Barons War stuff comes in, if those come with bases, because that, having the title Barons War associated with it, has a specific rule set in mind, or at least suggests a specific rule set and specific base sizes. So yeah, this is, again, my first unboxing video, guys, so this is all new territory. I'm just going to do some shots of the sprue so you guys can see what it is we're dealing with here. And in terms of quality, this is very good. As far as I'm concerned, the details are crisp, almost no flash, actually, which is what I find so impressive. Just kind of turning it to the sides, you can see this is where your mold lines would typically be. And yeah, I really don't see any. So like cleanup work's going to be extremely light. You can see like here, there's a little bit of flashing just on the side, but that's something the side of your X-Acto knife can pick up very easily. The design is cool. It's I would call it like a blend between Peter Jackson, Tolkien fantasy, and Labyrinth. Like you can see like these helmets here, to me, remind me of the Goblins in Labyrinth, whereas like this guy here just straight up looks like an Uruk-hai. So it's a neat blend. And again, for my purposes, kit bashing, Oathmark, and Wargames Atlantic, I think will do nicely. One, again, minor grievance, this being the third minor grievance, is that from counting the arms here, I only see 4 of each type for 5 bodies. So like up here, you've got 4 hand weapon arms. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 spear arms. Looks like you have 1, 2, 3, 4 bow arms to the 5 bodies. And it's not a big deal if you're playing skirmish games, for example, and don't necessarily want all 30 of them armed the exact same way, but when I'm building up units of things, it means I need to buy multiple kits in order to equip them all the same way. It's curious too, because in the newer of the kits that I've had that they've put out, so the Aztecs and the Conquistadors are, until I get the Barons War stuff, the most recent kits that I've got from them. And those, they deliberately, it seems, made it to where everything can be equipped the same way. So all the Aztecs could be equipped with hand weapon and shield, or spears, or bows. And then the Conquistadors, actually, it was such that they reduced the model count in the box from 30 to 24, but it came with 2 extra weapon sprues. So there were like a crazy number of bits in that box. Yeah, you could equip them with like halberds, hand weapons, handguns, crossbows. There were spears. So yeah, I think this is excellent quality in terms of scale, as I had mentioned earlier. So in terms of scale, comparing to the Oathmark stuff, You can see that they're very close. I would say that the Wargames Atlantic guys are just a little bit smaller. It's a similar enough pose. The other thing that's different about them, you can see the Oathmark guys have these like ball mounts on the heads, whereas the Wargames Atlantic have these flat heads, which means that the heads are going to sit on top of the bodies, whereas the Oathmark guys are kind of hunched over because the head's attached to the front, which is distinct because here, for example, is an Oathmark orc. So the orcs on the left, the goblins on the right-hand side. You can see that in terms of scale, they're almost identical, except that the one on the left, the orc, the neck is on top of the shoulders, and the goblin is on front of the shoulders. So that's actually why I use the orcs for goblins, because they're too small for orcs, kind of too big for goblins. So when I'm kit bashing them up, it works. But I think, yeah, all these guys blend together and it will look pretty cool. The other thing about these that I find interesting, actually, is that one of the problems that I found with, it was less of an issue with the Blood Oaths ones, the Dark Age Irish, more of an issue with the Aztecs, was with the bare torsoed guys. Some of the arms, there was like a proportion issue where they didn't really line up perfectly with the torsos. And one thing I noticed here is that they all have rounded ball joints here for all of the arms, all of the weapons, which does two things. You can see here, there's kind of a divot where it's supposed to go in, which means that it's going to fit more nicely. You don't have to worry about it's counterintuitive. You would think a flat surface against a flat surface would fit less nicely, but it will create more of a joint there. But it also allows for a greater range of motion with some of these weapons and equipment that they're holding. Again, in terms of design, very cool. Even like the different shield options. This is like a Dark Age shield. It's like there's like a boss. Maybe one of the hands has a piece of metal coming out of it. This is like a Greek or a Trojan shield. And you got some classic fantasy spiky ones up here too. The only other thing of note here is this piece is a saddle, because the suggestion, I believe, is that this kit is, or the sprue is also the one that's used in their, I think it's Spider Rider kit, not Wolf Rider, but Spider Riders, which suggests that these legs are actually meant to also serve as mounted legs that go with these torsos here. And the only issue I have with that from looking at the box art is that it means that these guys, the only poses I've seen them in are as archers, kind of in a straddle pose, hunched over archer firing pose. And even that I don't find completely convincing. I think it'll take a little bit of cutting and green stuff work for me to feel like that's correct. But again, there's nothing here that would make me say, like, don't pick up this kit. I think these are pretty great. And for the value, again, $30, this is $35 USD. So yeah, just over $1 a model here in the States, which is excellent for fantasy miniatures, kind of par for the course for historical multi-part plastic stuff. So anyway, yeah, I think this is a fantastic kit. It's going to blend very nicely with the rest of my goblins that I've got. And I highly recommend you pick them up if you're into that kind of thing. As I said, I got another box coming. It'll be the Foot Knights that should come in sometime next week, and I'll do a review video of that one too. So appreciate you checking in with me. And until next time, happy gaming, everybody.